What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with another week of fantasy football Q&A, this time for week number 12 of the 2020 NFL season, answering your lineup questions for your fantasy team to hopefully allow you to surge into the fantasy playoffs in weeks 14, 15, and 16. By the way, if you are in one of those leagues that rather starts the playoffs on week 13 or starts the playoffs or continues the playoffs into week 17, bro, you gotta change it. I mean, what are you doing out there? I'm actually in a league that starts in week 13, and it's probably the most frustrating thing I've ever had to do in fantasy history. So I'm probably going to get out of that league, to be quite honest with you. But we're here to answer some questions. So get in that live comment section. Let me know what you have to ask, what your lineup questions are, what your start and sit decisions are for week number 12. What's up, Ryan? Ryan's in the chat. I know I just went live for the Matt Patricia firing, so it might take a little bit for people to get the notification, or even if there was a notification sent out, hopefully everybody got those. I'm going to start off, as I always do, by answering the initial questions in the video that I put out on, was it yesterday I put it out? But the first Stardom Situm video, I'll answer those questions first from the comment section. And then whatever questions we do have live here, I'm going to answer those at the end. So let's start off with William in full PPR, who asks, pick one quarterback, Josh Allen or Kyler Murray. By the way, guys, PPR, non-PPR, half PPR, that doesn't affect quarterbacks. So I appreciate you giving the details, but it actually helps if you give 6 points for a passing touchdown, 4 points for a passing touchdown. That would give me a little bit more information. Josh Allen or Kyler Murray. So Josh Allen plays the Chargers. Kyler Murray plays the Patriots. That's an interesting one. You have two very good quarterbacks. Both defenses are not very good this year, but if I'm thinking about the team that I feel will score more and probably has less resistance, I'm probably going with the team that doesn't have Bill Belichick, because every once in a while, Bill Belichick can throw out a great game plan, and they do still have a good secondary there in New England. So I'm going to go with Josh Allen. I think he will shred the Chargers this week. Like, I'm talking top 3 fantasy finish, 300 yards, 2 to 3 touchdowns, maybe a rushing touchdown. He's going to have a big game. So I'm going to go with Josh Allen. I think Kyler just has a slightly lower ceiling for his matchup, because I do think the Patriots-Cardinals game is going to actually be close. And I feel like the Bills and Chargers, well, it might be close. I feel like the Bills will be in control for most of it, and they'll be putting up 30-plus points. So that's why I'm going to go with Josh Allen over Kyler Murray. The next question is Kevin Durkant, who asks, Cooper Kupp or DJ Moore in PPR. So Cooper Kupp taking on the San Francisco 49ers, and DJ Moore facing the Vikings. I'm initially thinking DJ Moore. Cooper Kupp had a really good game last week. There are some injuries. I believe K'Wan Williams is hurt for the 49ers at nickel corner, so that might have something to do with it. But because Jared Goff doesn't really play that well versus the 49ers, at least for the last 2 seasons, leaning towards going with DJ Moore versus the Vikings, because I feel like the Panthers are going to have to pass the ball. I feel like they're going to be effective passing the ball. I think this is going to be a higher scoring game. And I don't know. DJ Moore has been really consistent lately. Basically, each and every week, he's been there for you, providing fantasy points. Cooper Kupp has been a little up and down. I mean, he had a spectacular game last week, but I think that had more to do with the matchup than anything else. So I'm going to go with DJ Moore over Cooper Kupp there. And then his other question is Lockett, Anderson, or Fulgham. PPR, pick one. Lockett, Anderson, or Fulgham. So Fulgham has a great matchup, but I'm not sure you can go with him because they're starting to play Alshon Jeffrey now. You know, they're playing Jalen Reagor, they're playing this guy and that guy, and the targets seem to be spread out. Also, Carson Wentz's ass. So you have to consider all of those factors. I'm gonna start Tyler Lockett for sure. It's hard not to start Tyler Lockett. So I'm gonna go Tyler Lockett there. I do like all the options. I think like if you need a receiver 3 this week, you can go with Fulgham. I think Anderson's probably like around the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 range. But I think Lockett any given week can be a winner for you. So I'm going to go with Lockett there. So I'm going to say DJ Moore and Lockett. There was a super chat. So from Steven Drakes, who's $4.99. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. He asked, need 2 full PPR. Breida, Wilkins, Brian Hill, and Crowder. Okay, so I heard that Taylor is not playing. I also know that Gurley is not playing. Crowder, I understand it's full PPR, but I just don't like the usage as of late. I understand the switch at quarterback, but I'm still skeptical about that, so I'm probably going to sit Crowder. So that eliminates one guy. Breida is probably going to be the lead back in Miami versus the Jets, which is always enticing. But I think I like Wilkins and Hill the most. The Titans aren't very good versus the run. Wilkins will get the full workload of what Taylor would get on a given week. And Hill is like the lead guy with like no real other guy behind him versus the Raiders, who are not great versus the run. So I actually think I'm leaning with Wilkins and Hill. I think I would go Hill first. Wilkins and Breida are close. I think you could argue for Matt Breida because he does catch the ball. But as we've seen in Miami, like they don't really love to give him the ball a lot. I don't know what it is. So we've seen Wilkins have big games. So I'm going to go with Brian Hill and Wilkins there. I just am skeptical about the Breida and Crowder situations. Again, appreciate that. $4.99. Guys, if you do want a super chat, that's a good way to get me to answer your question right away. But if not, you'll just have to wait. But I appreciate you guys being here. If you haven't already, Gronk, spike that like button. And if you're new, subscribe to the channel for more. All right, so let's continue on the comments from the earlier video. William says, non-PPR, start Mike Davis or Brian Hill. So Brian Hill, Mike Davis. I don't think McCaffrey's not playing. He might play next week. I think I'm going to go Davis there. It's kind of hard to go against Davis right now. He's a good player, and we've seen how productive he can be. So I'd go with Davis. Lurkin says, do I start Juju or Sterling Shepard this week? I'm in a PPR league. So Juju is supposedly playing on Tuesday. That could be changed, but I assume that's going to happen. Sterling Shepard is playing the Bengals. He could have a big game. That's a tough one. I'm kind of leaning towards Shepard because from what I remember in the first matchup, Juju was locked up. And the Steelers weren't really able to pass the ball very effectively versus Baltimore secondary. I also think Marlon Humphrey was on him for that game. Now, Marlon Humphrey, I don't know who he's going to be playing. That's kind of the tough part. Like, is he going to be on Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Juju? Like, Juju could have a good game, like, at any given time. That's why it's hard to sit him here. But, man, that Sterling Shepard matchup is really interesting to me. So, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go Shepard, bro. I don't know. Call it a feeling. Call it whatever. I'm going to go with Shepard. Aiden says if Gaskin plays, I don't think he is. Gallman, AB, Mike Williams at flex. If Gaskin doesn't, AB or Mike Williams. Also Cam, Tannehill, or Taysom Hill. So I'm not a huge fan of Tannehill this week. He plays the Colts. Very solid defense. Taysom Hill, I don't love either this week. You know, he's going to give you that rushing floor, but the Broncos defense is solid and they are good versus the run. So I think the Saints offense is actually going to struggle versus the Broncos. I think Cam is going to be the best option for you at quarterback. As for between Mike Williams and AB, that's tough. I could see both having good games, but I'm going to lean towards AB just because I think his target consistency is there probably a little bit more. He's going to be he's not going to kill you on a given week the way Mike Williams is capable, but Mike Williams might have a bigger game. So I'm going to say AB, but it's close. Next game is the Dallas Goedert or Noah Fant. I'm going to go with Goddard there. And then after that, from Holden, by the way, says, and which two do I start between Davis, Nick Chubb, and Bernard? So you have to start Chubb, and I would start Davis over Bernard for sure. All right, Joshua says, I'm 7-4 going into this week. A win would be ideal. Thielen or Juju Smith-Schuster? I'm thinking Thielen. Thielen has COVID, so Thielen I don't believe is going to play. I'm actually going to check the latest on Adam Thielen because I only saw what I saw earlier. That was 5 days ago, so I don't know if there's been any update on his status. Not expected to play, says Adam Schefter. So I'm going to say Juju because Thielen is not expected to play. And if you guys notice, I'm replying on my phone. That's what I'm doing. Budhead says, who should I start at tight end PPR, Ebron or Goddard? I'm going to go probably with Goddard again. I think, Ebron I did list as a start, so I understand the question, but in terms of the upside, I think Goddard's is higher. Ronald says Herbert or Allen. I'm going to go with the guy that I believe will win the game, so I'm going to go with Allen. Eric says, do you think Daniel Jones will be a good quarterback start versus the versus the Bengals? Yes. There probably are better options, though. Like, he could be decent. Like, I think he's a good 2-quarterback league start. Lump says PPR, CEH, Gio, Bernard, or Taylor. So Taylor is out. And then you have Clyde or Bernard. And I'd probably lean towards... Man, that's hard. That is hard, actually. I kind of think Bernard, honestly. Like, are the Chiefs even going to run the ball in that game? I don't see why they would. I'm going to go Bernard, guys. Eric says, would you start Mike Thomas, Deontay Johnson, Tyler Lockett, or Mike Evans? I can start 2 of the 4. Which 2 would you pick? Damn, you have all those guys? Would you start Mike Thomas, Deontay Johnson, Tyler Lockett, or Mike Evans? I can start 2 of the 4. So I'm sitting Deontay. I gotta start Thomas. Like, I have to. I'd go Thomas and Lockett, I think. Because I think Slay is going to be on... Sorry, what's his name? Metcalf, I think. Fabian says, start 2. Hines, Gallman, Damian Harris. I always have a rough running back situation. I'm 7-4. Hines, Gallman. So now that Taylor's out, I think you have to start Hines, and then I'd go Gallman probably. I like Harris too, but I think Gallman has a better matchup. Elvis says, I need to win because I'm tied for first place with an 8-3 record. Congratulations. I picked up Brian Hill. Should I start him in the flex? I have Henry and Hunt starting. Yes. I replied to that already for some reason. Next, Casey says, random question. Do you watch college football? If so, what's your favorite team? Yes, but I'm a casual. Michigan is my favorite team. Next, Anish says, also Lamar's already a sit because he's not playing. Well, he might. Yo, Mitch, do you think Justin Herbert and also I put that out before it said he wasn't playing. Do you think Justin Herbert should be a start or sit against the Bills? start. Mark says full PPR league, Fournette, Moss, Latavius. God help you. I'm going to say Moss. Mitch, I'm about to win my fantasy league because of your content. I appreciate that. Benjamin says start Eckler, JT, Raheem, or Monty. I don't think Eckler... Is Eckler actually going to play, though? I want to say Raheem, but he's also hurt. Man. What's Eckler's situation looking like? I don't think Eckler's going to play. I know he was activated. I guess if Eckler plays, you kind of have to. But if not, I'd probably go with JT's out, Raheem or Montgomery. I mean, Raheem's matchup's tough, but I'm going to go with Raheem just because, like, Montgomery doesn't give you a lot of upside. He's kind of like just a floor start. Chris says, should I start Gus or Connor or B. Bill? Who's B. Bill? Brian Hill? Connor versus the Ravens, maybe. Gus plays well versus the Steelers, but I don't like the matchup. Typically. I'm going to say Connor, to be honest. I think he'll have a good game. I started 0-4, now I'm 6-5, says Connor. Full PPR, choose 3. Thielen, if play. Godwin, Deontay, Edmonds, Moss. I think I answered that. All right, so those are all the questions from the first video. I'm going to get to the live questions now. So, guys, before we get to these live questions, make sure you do Gronk spike that like button. Show some support for the channel. Connor has COVID. Is he going to be out for Tuesday? How many guys have COVID? That's ridiculous, dude. All right, let's go. I don't have Eckler on any of my teams, so I've been following him because I was thinking about trading for him, but after like 2 weeks ago, I just assumed he wasn't going to be coming back. Sebi says, how are you? I'm pretty good. Do you think the Bears can make the playoffs? No. Durkan says, did people not get the notifications? I guess not. See Orion. Alex says, pick 2 for full PPR. Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs, A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, or Corey Davis. He's giving me the whole dang team here. You have to start Diggs. Have to. And I think I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson as the other option there. Roaring says, who should I start at wide receiver? Sorry, as my wide receiver, Nick Chubb or Michael Thomas? Oh, wide receiver / running back. Nick Chubb. Jack says AB, Lazard, or Hunter Henry PPR 14 team. I'm going to go with AB. Alex says Hines, ? Hines is good. I don't even know. Alitito, bro. I don't know. Pittman, Gio, or Juju? Ooh. Man, that's tough. I think Pittman has the chance for the biggest game there. So if you're looking for like upside, it's probably Pittman. You know what? Go with Pittman. Screw it. Do it. Why not? Ultra says Tannehill or Herbert. I'm going to go with Herbert. He also says pick 2, Robinson, Evans, and Ridley. I'm going to go Evans and Ridley, I think. Robinson's going to be playing Alexander with Trubisky. I'm not so confident in that. Butthead says, does anyone care about the Tyson Jones fight? Yes, I want to watch it tonight. Jack says Panthers are on a bye. Week 13. I know. Bunch of teams are on a bye in week 13, and idiots are still playing in the playoffs in fantasy. Same as the Bucks, man. Ellis says Tonyan, Rudolph, Reed, or Gesicki. I'm going to go with Reed as long as he plays. If he doesn't play, I'll go Gesicki. All sports high. Actually, go Jaceki because I think Reed's beat up and Fitzpatrick's back. I forgot about that. Chris Carson or Eckler? Carson because of Eckler's injury. I know Carson's also hurt, but Carson's safer. Ben says, should I start Nick Chubb or a running back one like Aaron Jones? In PPR, I prefer Jones over Chubb. Even though that's a tough matchup, man. I do usually prefer Jones, but thinking about the matchup now versus Jacksonville compared to Chicago, I think I go Chubb this week. Butthead says, I think I should start Goddard, but I'm debating Ebron because the Ravens linebackers and safeties aren't that good. But what do you think? Yeah, I agree. That's why I listed him as a start. But I think Goddard, given the game script, I think he should be able to see a lot of targets. PK says, pick 2 out of Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Justin Jefferson, and Mike Davis. You have to start Julio as long as he's playing, and I think you go with Justin Jefferson. If it's full PPR, if it's half PPR, I'd find a way to put Mike Davis in the lineup. And the other guy would be probably Julio, I guess. Julio and Ridley, I mean, you're basically guessing who's going to have a better game. Ultra says Myers or Slayton. Slayton probably has more upside. If you're looking for a floor, Myers is probably better, but Slayton should have some upside in a game versus the Bengals. Should I start Hill or Thielen? It looks like Thielen's not going to play, so Hill. Hilton or Landry? Probably Landry. Is Hinton a start? I mean, kind of. Like, if you're desperate at receiver, I don't see why not. He's going to play quarterback, so he's getting the ball. Chris Carson, Gallman, or Mike Davis? Like, okay, let's talk about Hinton for a sec. So I think he is a start, but it depends like who else you have. Like the problem I have with starting him is how much is he actually going to play quarterback? Are they going to run like some wildcat? Are they going to run? Is he going to throw? Is he going to run? Like, are there trick plays? Are they just going to hand it off all game? Like, what is the strategy for the Broncos going into the game? So I think there's volatility to it, but if you need a guy and you don't have good receivers, I don't see why not. Builder says Chris Carson, especially if it's like standard. If it's standard, then any way you can put a quarterback in your lineup, it's a good idea. Chris Carson, Gallman, or Davis? Carson, I think. Even though Davis is healthy, man. Carson scares me a lot. I think, you know what? Davis is a lot safer. So it depends how much you want to live on the edge with that. Brian says, not fantasy related, but what playoff matchup do you want to see? I think the Rams, Packers, and Raiders, Titans would be interesting. Yeah, those would be good. I'm trying to stick to fantasy, Brian, but those would be good matchups. I just want to see let's say one matchup that I'd like to see. I'd like to see Ravens and Steelers in a playoff game for the third time. Jackie says Mozart or Brian Allen, assuming that Mozart plays. Also Goddard or Hooper. I'm going to go Goddard over Hooper, and I'm going to go Hill. Even if Mozart plays, he's going to not play a lot, knowing Shanahan. So I'm going to go Hill just because of, reasons. Tom Brady is a start if you watched my video. Yeah. Evans or Curtis Samuel? Evans. Carson, Allen Robinson, or Hines? I'm going to go Hines and Carson, I think. Full PPR, Evans or Samuel. Evans and Beasley, I'm going to go. Carson or Robinson? Carson. Hinton or Parker? Hinton. Hill or Samuel? Debo Samuel. Hill because of Debo's health. Raphael says choose one. Standard, Carson, Eckler, or Hill. I don't know how healthy Carson is, but I want to say Carson out of those guys. And I don't know how healthy Eckler is. Like, these questions are very hard because, like, I don't know the status. Zach says, need a flex out of Mostert, DJ Moore, and Antonio Brown. I'd go DJ Moore. He's the safest. Mark says, Nyheim Hines or Kareem Hunt. Half PPR. I'm going to say Hines. It's close, though. Roaring Riot says, I'm 10-1 and in a pickle for a wide receiver running back. Which player should I start? Nick Chubb, Michael Thomas, Derrick Henry, Nyheim Hines, or Chase Claypool? Out of all of those guys? I think Nick Chubb, because Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry are similar. And Chubb has a way easier matchup, though. Like, Derrick Henry has the Colts. That's a tough matchup. So I'd go Nick Chubb out of those guys. Russ or Herbert? Gotta go with Russ. Chris Carson or Robbie Anderson? Flex PPR. Again, I don't know the status of Carson, but I would lean towards going with Carson. Yeah, I mean, it's not a matter if they play or not, but like how much will they play, Mark? Like that's the true question. Samuel says, I have Deontay Johnson and Claypool. Should I sit them because of the game through? What? If the game falls through, I have no one. You could play one of them, pick your favorite out of the two, and then sit the other. Could do that. I think they will play, but I mean, you could just play one or you could play none. I mean, it depends on the options you have, bro. Like, that's honestly the answer. Like, if you have other options that you believe in, then just go with them and be safe. Nicholas says, ready for Trubisky to outduel Rodgers? No. Nick says, Drake, Gio, Gus Edwards, or Hines? I'm going to go with Hines in full PPR there. I like Hines this week. Any other questions? Carson is good to go for Monday. Yes. But when you're deciding between, some of these great players, it's not a foregone conclusion. Plus, the Eagles are solid. So, Carson, typically when he plays, he gets a full workload. So, like, he's one of the safer guys. But a guy like Mostert, for example, who's under Shanahan, he does not play the hurt guy as much because he understands that it's tough to come back. Fact or fiction, Lions hire Todd Bowles. I would say fiction. Nick says Drake, Gio, or Gus Edwards. I'm going to say Gus. Maybe Drake. Maybe Gio. No, that's a hard question. Drake and Edmonds split all the time, but Drake has had some good games. I do think they're able to run versus the Patriots, but like how well in comparison? I mean, Gus has a tough matchup. I don't really know what's happening in that game, so that kind of scares me. Gio, I don't really love the matchup either. You know what? In that situation, just go with the guy that you drafted high. Go with Drake. Go with the guy that you thought would get you there. I mean, he has a chance to have a couple big runs in the game. Probably score a touchdown. So why not? Kenyon Drake. Standard, if Balaj is out, should I start Eckler over Carson? I would go with Carson over Eckler because I have more certainty about the injury. Eckler had a torn hamstring. That's not an easy injury to come back from, or a partial torn hamstring. So that's a harder injury to come back from than what Carson was dealing with. Even though the matchup is easier with Eckler, I think it's harder to rely on him to play the whole game. Shade says Tyreek Hill or D Jones. Who's D Jones? D Jones. Daniel Jones? Oh, Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill, sorry. Taysom or Daniel Jones? I'm going to go with Daniel Jones. I have a feeling about that. I think Daniel Jones, see, this is the thing. Taysom Hill runs, right? But so does Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones has an easier matchup. I think he'll be able to pass the ball better in his matchup. I actually think that Saints game is going to be kind of low scoring. I'm going to go with Daniel Jones. Rob says Wentz gets benched for Hurts on Monday. Mostert or Devontae Parker, asks Casey. I'm going to go with Mostert in most formats. Maybe not PPR. In PPR, I would go with Parker. Williams says, if Mostert and Gaskin are out, Fulgham, Debo, Landry, or Wilkins in the flex. It depends on the format. Most times I'll go Wilkins there, though. Fulgham has an iffy situation. Debo is hurt. He's coming back, but he's hurt. Landry has been nothing. Wilkins, I think I would go with him. Snell or Sanders at the flex? Miles Sanders? Or Debo or Emmanuel? Those are all slightly different answers. What's up, says Fabian. What's up? Kevin Olenek. What's up, Kevel? Says Ronald. Is Ronald Jones a regular start going forward? He has some solid matchups. I think he plays Atlanta. He plays Detroit. He plays Kansas City this week. I would like to believe so, Kev, but I don't know what Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians are going to do with the backfield. I believe they'll give the ball to Ronald Jones more, but I'm not certain about that. But his matchups are good, so I think most weeks you can play him, but I don't think he's like a reliable player in terms of you're expecting him to put up big points every week. He's like if he puts up big points, it's nice, but it's not like implied that he does it or anything. So I'm going to say Ronald Jones is like a running back 2 flex kind of guy. You don't want him as your first back, but if you have him as your second or your third, you should be okay. He should get the ball more going forward. Fant or Ebron? I'm going to go Ebron. Gio or Beasley? Full PPR, I'm going Beasley, but other formats, I'll go Gio. Samuel says Miles. Oh, that's easily Miles. What is that even a question? I like to watch the NFL. DK or Mike Evans? I think DK just because of his consistent targets, but Mike Evans could outproduce him given that Slay will be covering DK probably. Zach says Devontae Parker, Christian Kirk, or Curtis Samuel rest of season. I'm going to say Parker when Fitzpatrick is in, but otherwise I'll say Kirk. Fabian says wide receivers start 3. Higgins, sit. Claypool, AB, Jefferson, or Metcalf. I'm going to go Jefferson and Metcalf for sure, and then I'll put in AB over Claypool this week, I think. Durkant says, no, it's been confirmed that Royce Freeman is Denver's emergency quarterback. Really? Oh, okay. Robinson or Royce Freeman? Robinson. Yeah, Robinson. It depends on the format, though. If it's standard, I think I'd go with Freeman because if he's playing quarterback, if it's PPR, I go with Robinson. Rank Patrick, Judy, and Parker, like in terms of how good they are or their fantasy. How good they are, I go Parker, Judy, Patrick. In terms of fantasy, I would go, that's interesting. I still believe in Parker, but Patrick seems to be better, the best out of those 3 in terms of fantasy right now. All right. I think I'm done. It's about 7:45, 4:45 on the West. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, Gronk, spike that like button and subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos just like this. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. We will see you on Sunday and also on Patreon if you haven't already. I'll be updating what bets I'm making for this weekend. See you then. Peace.